Hello, geometry. I'm going to go over a couple of examples from section 4.3, rotations of your student journal. So I'm on page 105. I'm going to be using examples from the student journal. The graphs are kind of small in the student journal, so it might be hard for you to follow along, but do the best you can. If you have graph paper, it might be a little bit easier to do it. Now, one thing I noticed about these problems is they don't tell you the direction that you're rotating. So in this textbook, we are going to assume that the direction that we're rotating is counterclockwise if they don't say. Since that's what all the rules up above are talking about, are counterclockwise. We're going to follow counterclockwise rules for every problem unless it is stating otherwise. Okay, so just a word of advice on that. So here, number one, it says graph the image of the polygon after a rotation of the given number of degrees about the origin. So it's like our origin is acting as our center. Okay, so we're going to go 180 degrees. So it might be kind of hard to visualize, like, where is my point going to end up? So what I like to do is I like to write down the old points and think about using the rule and what do those points become using the rule, right? So you can write the points here on the graph, but this graph's kind of small, so you might want to just sort of write it off to the side like I am doing. So for point J, it is the point -2, 1, 2, 3, 4. -2, 4. Point K is the point 1, 2, 3, 4, -5, 1. And for L, the point is -2, -2. And then finally for M, we have the point 1, 1. Now, following the rule, okay, and I'm going to name my new points J prime, K prime, L prime, and M prime, okay? So following the rule, I'm going to have to move this a little bit. I don't want it to be in the way. There we go. Whoopsies. What happened here? Not sure what that is. Following the rule here, sorry, I keep saying the same thing over and over again. This rule up here that we learned that whenever we rotate 180 degrees, what happens to the X and Y values is they just change from positive to negative and from negative to positive. So what I'm going to do is write down my new points. So it's going to be 2, -4. It's going to be 5, -1. It's going to be 2, 2. And it's going to be -1, -1. And what I do now is I'm just going to graph those points. I'm going to use a different color, and I'm going to use my primes to name my points. So we go 2, down 1, 2, 3, 4. That's going to be J prime. And then I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, down 1. That's going to be my K prime. And then I'm going to go 2, 2. That's going to be my L prime. It's okay if they overlap. And then I have -1, -1. This is why I like to use different colors if I can, because they do tend to overlap. And then what we're going to do is we're going to connect those as best we can on the computer. Sometimes that's tricky there, but this is J prime. I kind of lost my prime there. I'm not in my prime anymore. There we go. So there you go. So there's your new shape. So creating the table here off to the side, or writing the points off to the side, can be really helpful in getting to your correct answer. Okay, so on the next one, I'm looking at number 7. Okay, so looking at number 7, is that the one? Yeah. So we're going to do number 7. So on number 7, this is a combination, or what they call a composition. Okay. So we have our points here. It looks like we're at -1, 0 for n, and then we're at 1, 2, 3, -3 for m. And then this is just a segment that you have to transform. So you're going to do two transformations. You're going to do a rotation and then you're going to do a translation. So I'm going 90 degrees counterclockwise. Again, if it helps you to write down the points for the old versus the new, that definitely does help me. But again, to each their own. So my values of n are -1, 0. My values of m are 3, -3. So the new point n prime and the new point m prime after a 90-degree rotation, remember what happens with that rule. So I'm going to go back to my rules here. And remember, it's not about memorizing them. It's about knowing when to use them and how to use them. So I'm going to switch my x and y's, and I'm going to change the sign of the new x value. Okay, so the way that that looks here is if I switch the x and y, that is 0, -1, change the sign of the x. Well, 0 is 0. There's no -0. So I'm just going to leave it as 0. For m, I'm going to switch the x and y, and then I'm going to change the sign of m, so that becomes positive. So I'm going to erase that negative. These are my new points. I'm going to do a different color. I'll go with pink. So I have 0, -1. That's here. I'm going to call that n prime. And then I have 3, up 3. That's going to be my m prime. So that's one transformation done. Remember in number 7, we have a second transformation of translating. We're taking each x and y and changing it using this rule. So if we have x -5, comma y, that means that each point needs to go left 5. And then here, it's going to go 0, up or down. It's not moving up or down at all. So we're literally just going to take each point and go left 5. When I go to name these, I'm going to name these n double prime and m double prime. The double prime tells me that I've transformed it twice. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do on these. I'm going to try to make a straighter line here. There we go. So my new points, I'm just going to take my n prime, and I'm going to go left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is going to be n double prime. And then for the m prime, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's going to be m double prime. So I can connect those, and that is my final image for number 7. Number 9, they give you a graph of a triangle JKL. They tell you the points of the original triangle. So I graph those points over here to the right. So I'm not going to write down these points because these are going to be your old points, right? So I'm not going to write those ones down. The other thing is I'm doing number 9. In number 9, they first ask me to do a translation. This translation of x -4 means I'm going 4 to the left, and y -4 means I'm taking every point and going 4 down. So that's going to be my first transformation. And when I do that, I will call it J prime, K prime, and L prime. So I'm going to take each point. I'll start with L. Doesn't matter which one you start with. And I'm going to go left 1, 2, 3, 4, and then down 1, 2, 3, 4. That becomes L prime. I'm now going to take K and go left 1, 2, 3, 4, and go down 1, 2, 3, 4. That becomes K prime. And then J is going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, down 1, 2, 3, 4, and this becomes J prime. You could also take each of these x and y values of the points and just add 4. And subtract 4 and subtract 4 to get your points if you wanted to. It's really up to you how you get your points. But I like to use the graph when I can. So now here is my translated triangle. The second thing in our transformation, since this is a composition or a combination transformation, is I'm going to do a 270-degree rotation about the origin. Again, remember, we are assuming these are all counterclockwise since that's the way the book does it, okay? Don't go clockwise unless it states that, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write down, again, for me, it helps me to write down these points. But if you want to take a different approach and do it a little bit differently, go ahead. So we have our old points versus our new points. So I have J prime, L prime, and K prime. So J prime is -2, -1. L prime is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, -5, -4. And K prime is -3, -5. So let's go ahead and look at the rule for 270 degrees. For 270 degrees, your x and y's switch places and you change the sign of the new y value. So we're looking at this last bullet point here, okay? So what we're going to do now is I'm going to use that rule here to get my J double prime, L double prime, and K double prime, and then I will graph it to get my answer. So switching the x and the y, that becomes -1, -2, and I change the sign of the y value, so that becomes positive. You can either make it a plus sign, or you can simply just erase it. Then for L prime, double prime, I get switch my x and y's and change the sign of my y value, which makes that 5 positive. And then for K, switch my x and y's, and that makes the y value positive. So it looks like this. So these are my points that I'm going to graph. -1, 2. There's my J double prime. -4, 1, 2, 3, 4, up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's going to be what? L double prime. And then -5, up 1, 2, 3. That's going to be my K double prime. Remember that all of these transformations that we are doing are rigid motion, which means that their shape should be congruent. Even if we do a combo like we just did, your shape should be congruent. So the orange shape here is my final option there, okay? All right, so, or my final shape. So I hope these examples helped you a little bit. Remember to really, if I were you, I would put a bookmark at page 104, 105, because that's where those rules are that we're going to use. And again, use counterclockwise for all of your rotations that go around the origin and the coordinate plane, unless it states otherwise. I hope you enjoyed this video, and best of luck with your practice.